Okay, I'm going to do a second video today. I'm kind of feeling inspired, but what I'm going to talk about in this video is about how to take care of your tarot cards. I know if you've done a lot of tarot reading and you've shuffled your deck the traditional way, kind of like taking it here and going like this, what happens is that in a lot of decks, the deck gets bowed. You know, you can see in decks that have been used for quite a few years, a distinctive U-shaped bow that comes about from the tarot reader shuffling the cards like I just demonstrated. Now, there's a way to avoid that, and that's why I'm using this deck. This is a Thoth tarot deck that I've had for, might as well say, about 5 years, and I've used it pretty well. You can even see here there's some, if I can get it in the camera there, there's some scorching that has taken place on these cards. I was using them in a ritual, and the candle that I was using exploded and scorched the cards, so that kind of added a little bit of character to the deck. But as you can see with this deck, I mean, it's pretty straight. There's not really a whole lot of warpage here that you see in a lot of decks. And unfortunately, I don't have a deck that shows any warpage. Even though I've been using a lot of these decks for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, I've got some decks that I've used for longer than that, and they're all pretty straight. Now, how do I do that? How do I keep using the deck without getting them warped? Like a lot of readers who shuffle their cards using the traditional method will warp their decks. Well, how to avoid that? The first way that you can do it is by overhand shuffling. And you don't shuffle the way that I demonstrated there. You just go overhand shuffle like that. And to me, that's kind of clumsy. So I don't really do it that way. The method that I use is similar to the traditional method that I demonstrated in the beginning. First, I'll shuffle like that, and then I turn the deck over, and I take the deck apart, and then shuffle again. And what I do is I alternate from having the cards face down to having the cards face up. And that way, when you're bending the deck, you're not bending the deck constantly one way, which will cause the cards to warp. You're bending the deck in two different ways. Face down, face up, and face down. And what this does is that this keeps the deck relatively straight and avoids the warpage. There's a little bit of warpage there, but not a whole lot. I mean, for having used this deck for over 5 years, that looks like a pretty straight deck. And that's the method that I use. So, 2 ways you can shuffle your deck to keep your cards in good shape for as long as possible. Either overhand shuffling, or use the other method of shuffling the traditional way, but doing it face down, and then face up, and then face down, and just alternate. Now, what I'll do, because some people say, well, you're peeking, you're looking at the cards as you're shuffling them. Well, what I'll do then is make sure that the last time I shuffle through face down, and then go ahead and do it like that. And then we always cut the cards anyway, so whatever is on the bottom doesn't really matter that much, because the bottom card is going to be buried in the center of the deck anyway. And then you are good to go. And the Prince of Wands. Yes, fiery energy, brand new energy. Energy for keeping your deck brand new and looking good for the long haul. So, you know, if you got a tarot deck that actually has been used for quite a few years, and it has that warp to it. What you can do is that by alternating, by shuffling your cards and shuffling them face up for a while instead of face down, I believe you can actually begin to take that warp out of an old deck. And I did. I bought an old deck a few years ago, and I tried to de-warp it, and I was pretty successful in doing it that way. So, you can use this method to keep your cards looking newer longer, and then you can also use this method to kind of unbend an already warped and bent deck. So, just so I'd pass that along. So those are two ways that I know of for keeping a deck looking fairly good. So until later, this is Ralph signing out, and we'll catch you in future broadcasts.